Former Philadelphia Eagle Bryan Braman, who fought a much tougher battle off the field, lost his life to cancer this week.
On July 17, 2025, the NFL was rocked by the news of Bryan Braman's death. At first, everyone thought they knew what happened. Until now, a nurse who witnessed his final moments is finally speaking out, and what she reveals changes everything. I've got the full story. Let's break it down. The battle behind hospital walls. New revelations are emerging about Bryan Braman's final moments, and they're more than just tragic. It all began with a diagnosis in February 2025. The words rare and aggressive form of brain cancer would mark a turning point in a life already defined by resilience. For a man known for taking on 300-pound linemen without hesitation, this invisible enemy posed a battle unlike anything he had ever faced. Bryan Braman, a former NFL linebacker and Super Bowl champion, found himself in a battle that would make all his previous struggles pale in comparison. This was a fight that couldn't be won with pure determination alone, though Bryan would certainly try to apply every ounce of the resilience he had spent a lifetime building. The medical journey that followed would test every fiber of the warrior spirit that had carried him from homelessness to the heights of professional football. He sought treatment in Seattle, Washington, undergoing an intensive 12-week program that included multiple surgeries and cutting-edge CAR T-cell therapy. CAR T-cell therapy, a treatment so advanced it sounds like science fiction, involves reprogramming a patient's T-cells to target cancer cells. For Bryan, it represented hope wrapped in the most sophisticated medical technology available. The treatment regimen was as grueling as any NFL training camp, but infinitely more consequential. The therapy initially showed promise, with Braman's modified cells reinfusing and reproducing in his bone marrow, causing the tumor mass to shrink temporarily. For a brief shining moment, it seemed as though Bryan's fighting spirit might triumph once again. Those who knew him weren't surprised. This was, after all, the same man who had turned adversity into strength time and time again throughout his remarkable life. But cancer, as Bryan would learn, doesn't respect championship rings or personal history. However, the cancer fought back, indicating its aggressive nature, and continued to grow despite further treatments. The disease proved to be as relentless as Bryan himself, matching his determination with its own malignant persistence. Following the initial success and subsequent failure of CAR T-cell therapy, Brahman received chemotherapy tailored to his treatment program. Yet even as his body endured treatment after treatment, Bryan's spirit remained unbroken. However, his limited chemo options, due to his compromised immune system, were ineffective against the aggressive cancer. The financial burden of fighting for his life was staggering, a cruel irony for someone who had spent his career making millions of dollars for team owners while earning a modest salary himself. His insurance did not cover housing for a required 24-hour caregiver, and he had sold his last vehicle to afford temporary lodging during treatment. Here was a Super Bowl champion, forced to sell his car just to afford a place to stay while fighting for his life. But if there's one thing Bryan's life had taught the world, it was that he never fought alone. A GoFundMe campaign, organized by his friend William Jones, was set up in February 2025 to cover medical and living expenses. The response was nothing short of extraordinary, a testament to the impact Bryan had made on everyone whose life he had touched throughout his incredible journey. The fundraiser raised nearly $90,000, with significant contributions from former teammates like J.J. Watt, $10,000, Dwayne Brown, Brian Cushing, Rasul Douglas, Brent Selleck, and Emmanuel Acho. These weren't just donations, they were love letters written in dollars and cents, tangible proof that Bryan's impact extended far beyond the football field and deep into the hearts of those who had been privileged to know him. The $10,000 donation from Watt spoke to a bond forged not just in the crucible of professional football, but in the deeper connections that transcend sport and speak to the fundamental human capacity for love and loyalty. The medical team in Seattle was doing everything humanly possible, employing cutting-edge treatments and experimental therapies, but his weakened immunity, a side effect of the treatments, prevented adequate recovery, allowing the cancer to progress. It was a devastating catch-22. The very treatments designed to save his life were also compromising his body's ability to heal and fight back. By June 2025, updates on the GoFundMe page indicated that Brahman had returned home to Spokane after his treatment in Seattle. This wasn't the triumphant homecoming that Bryan had envisioned. The cancer's rapid growth and his weakened immune system limited further treatment options, and doctors expressed concern about his prognosis. But even as his body was failing him, Bryan's priorities remained crystal clear. Despite exploring additional trial programs, Brahman's condition deteriorated. The man who had never backed down from a challenge was facing the ultimate test of his character, and he was determined to face it with the same grace and determination that had defined his entire extraordinary life. In the 2 weeks leading up to his death on July 17, 2025, Brahman was primarily at home, surrounded by his daughter's mother and close friends. His agent, Sean Stellato, described these final moments as deeply meaningful, with Brahman cherishing time with his daughters, reading bedtime stories, and sharing quiet moments of love and connection.
There's a great video of Braman on the field after the Eagles beat the New England Patriots with his young daughter in his arm, chasing down Howie Roseman to say, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." Our own John McMullen called him one of the best special team players in the modern era. Bryan Braman, 1987 to 2025. His daughters are 11 and 8 years old.
These interactions were described as the most important plays of his life, a poignant reminder that for all his achievements on the football field, Bryan understood that his greatest victories were measured not in yards gained or tackles made, but in the love he gave and received from his daughters, Blakely and Marlo. While there is no specific account of Bryan Braman's final moments, he passed away in a Spokane hospital, surrounded by loved ones, as confirmed by his agent. The hospital staff who cared for Bryan in those final days witnessed something extraordinary, not just the passing of a former NFL player, but the completion of a life lived with remarkable courage and purpose. His agent, Sean Stellato, emphasized that Brahman's daughters were his everything and his legacy, and he cherished the quiet moments with them, such as reading bedtime stories and holding hands in the living room. In those final days, the priorities that had always mattered most to Bryan came into the sharpest focus.
Now, you're a father of 2 girls?
I am. I got two beautiful little girls. Two beautiful little girls.
And
Yeah.
You're a busy guy. I have an 8 and a 4-year-old, and I'm not as busy as you are.
Yeah.
I remember the day.
Brahman's home was a place of comfort where he was never alone. Friends and family, including close teammates, visited and offered support, reflecting the strong bonds he had built throughout his NFL career. Stellato described Brahman as a gentle giant off the field, whose generosity and spirit touched everyone around him. But to truly understand the magnitude of what the world lost when Bryan Braman drew his final breath, we must journey back to the beginning to understand how a young boy from Spokane, Washington, overcame impossible odds to become not just an NFL champion, but a champion of the human spirit. The making of a warrior. Bryan Allen Braman was born on May 4th, 1987 in Spokane, Washington, into circumstances that would have broken lesser spirits. His childhood was marked by frequent moves, often living in low-income neighborhoods like Hilliard and Cheney, and sometimes staying on friends' couches or in his mother's car due to homelessness. His mother, Tina Brahman Fields, was more than just a parent. She was a fortress of strength, a beacon of hope in their darkest hours. She worked tirelessly, juggling multiple jobs while pursuing her education, all to ensure that her son would have every opportunity to chase his dreams, no matter how impossible they might seem.
So my mom, she did an amazing job. Single mother, working full-time, going to school, trying to just make a better life for me, give me every opportunity, my sister every opportunity that we needed in order to pursue our dreams or any opportunity that presented itself.
The football field became Bryan's sanctuary, his church, his cathedral of dreams. At Shadle Park High School, he wasn't just playing football, he was sculpting his destiny with every tackle, every sprint, every moment of pure athletic poetry. But life, as it often does, had other plans that would test his resolve in ways he never could have imagined. At 18, Brahman earned a football scholarship to the University of Idaho, but struggled with depression, leading to poor academic performance and dismissal from the university. What followed was perhaps the darkest chapter of his early life, a period where the young man who would one day inspire millions found himself lost in the shadows of despair, questioning everything he thought he knew about himself and his future. This setback plunged him into a period of homelessness and drug use, a low point where he described living on the streets and battling personal demons. But here's where Bryan Braman's story becomes truly extraordinary, where the foundation of his warrior spirit was truly laid. Instead of surrendering to the darkness, instead of allowing his circumstances to define his destiny, he made a choice that would echo through the rest of his life. Determined to turn his life around, he took a grueling job making concrete railroad ties for $10 an hour, working 75 hours a week, which motivated him to pursue higher education and football again. The transformation wasn't just physical, though working 75 hours a week with concrete and steel certainly forged his body into something resembling a modern gladiator. The real transformation was spiritual, mental, emotional. Bryan was learning what it meant to fight, what it meant to persevere when every fiber of your being screams for you to quit.
You know, since the time I was 6 years old, said that I wanted to be a pro athlete. Didn't know if it was going to be in soccer, baseball, or track, but started playing football in 8th grade and that's when the insatiable, drive took over, where it was the NFL from there on.
Brahman enrolled at community colleges of Spokane before transferring to Long Beach City College, LBCC, in California in 2007, where he resumed playing football. At Long Beach, something magical began to happen. The young man who had once lived in his mother's car was beginning to emerge as a force to be reckoned with on the football field. His performances caught the attention of coaches who saw in him not just raw talent, but something more precious: heart, determination, and an unbreakable spirit forged in the fires of adversity. His performance at LBCC caught the attention of Bobby King, a coach from West Texas A&M University, who recruited him. At West Texas A&M, Bryan wasn't just playing football. He was announcing to the world that he had arrived. His aggressive style, his relentless pursuit of excellence, and his infectious energy made him impossible to ignore. At West Texas A&M, Brahman honed his skills as a defensive end, displaying the high-energy, aggressive style that would define his career. Yet despite his talent, he went undrafted in the 2011 NFL Draft, a fact that might have crushed the spirit of someone with less determination. But Bryan Braman wasn't someone who accepted defeat easily. He had learned long ago that the most meaningful victories often come to those who refuse to quit when the odds seem insurmountable. The Houston Texans signed him as an undrafted free agent in 2011, and what happened next was nothing short of spectacular. This young man, who had been overlooked by every team in the NFL Draft, was about to show the world what it meant to have heart that couldn't be measured by any combine drill or statistics sheet. As a rookie, he carved out a niche on special teams, where his relentless energy and physicality made him a standout. But it wasn't just his athletic ability that made him special. It was his approach to the game, his philosophy of life that he had forged in the fires of adversity, homelessness, and personal struggle.
The group of guys that we got out here competing, holding me accountable, as well as me holding them accountable, just going out there to get better every day.
What is the kind of the mentality that a really great special teams player in the NFL has to have? People say you have to be a little bit crazy.
His most iconic moment came during the 2011 season finale against the Tennessee Titans, when he made a viral, helmetless tackle on punt returner Mark Mariani, headbutting him without a helmet. This wasn't just a football play. It was a statement, a declaration that some things in life are worth risking everything for. It was pure Bryan Braman, fearless, relentless, and absolutely unwilling to back down from any challenge.
You heard what I thought: kill, maim, and destroy. Really, just feel like you got to have a special mentality to disregard any safety for yourself or for anybody else and just make plays.
The tackle became legendary, not just because of its audacity, but because it perfectly encapsulated who Bryan Braman was as a person. Here was a man who, when faced with a choice between safety and excellence, between caution and commitment, chose to throw caution to the wind and give everything he had. This moment, combined with his consistent special teams contributions, including blocking punts, cemented his reputation as a fan favorite. In 2012, he was named a Pro Bowl alternate for his special teams prowess, a significant achievement for an undrafted player. Over 3 seasons with the Texans, Bryan wasn't just playing football. He was building relationships, forming bonds that would later prove meaningful during the most challenging period of his life. He played alongside stars like J.J. Watt, forming bonds that would later prove meaningful during his cancer battle. Day one.
I came in 2011 to the Houston Texans, and I mean, the lineup of guys that they had in front of me, I knew that I wasn't going to make the roster as an outside linebacker, playing behind Mario Williams, Connor Barwin, D'Amico Ryans, and Brian Cushing in the room. It was something that I had picked up on quick, and I knew my biggest chance of making that active roster was going to be on special teams.
In 2014, Brahman signed a 2-year, $3.15 million contract with the Philadelphia Eagles, bringing his unique brand of intensity and heart to a city that appreciated nothing more than authentic effort and genuine passion. Philadelphia wasn't just getting a football player, they were getting a warrior, a gladiator who understood that every play could be his last, every opportunity a chance to prove that heart could triumph over circumstance. The Eagles' years would prove to be the crescendo of Bryan's football career, the culmination of a journey that had taken him from the streets of Spokane to the pinnacle of professional sports. His time with the Eagles culminated in the 2017 season when he rejoined the team for the playoffs and played a key role in their Super Bowl LNQ victory over the New England Patriots. But even before that ultimate triumph, Bryan was showing Philadelphia what it meant to play with everything on the line. During the divisional round against the Atlanta Falcons, Brahman redeemed a costly mistake by blocking a punt on the next play, leading to a field goal that shifted momentum in the Eagles' 15-10 win. This wasn't just about football. This was about redemption, about the power of perseverance, about what happens when someone refuses to let a single mistake define their entire story.
Tell me about that controversial black punt that helped swing the game.
Yeah, you know, previously in the game, I actually had been accused of muffing a punt. So down there, you know, deep in our territory, the ball bounced off of me. They recovered it and ended up scoring off of that. So at that point, I was just like, you know, I gotta make it up.
In the Super Bowl, he recorded a crucial tackle on a kickoff return, helping secure Philadelphia's first NFL championship since 1960. This victory, his final NFL game, was one of the 3 greatest accomplishments of his life, alongside his daughters, Blakely and Marlo. Brahman played 97 regular season games, recording 56 tackles, 1.5 sacks, and 2 fumble recoveries across his 7-year career. But statistics could never capture the true measure of Bryan Braman. His kill, maim, destroy mantra and larger-than-life personality made him a beloved teammate and leader.
First off, I'm a father. You know, I have 2 beautiful daughters, Blakely and Marlo. I'm obviously a football player. I love the game. I've been doing it since I was a kid. Never thought I'd be doing anything else in this life.
After retiring from the NFL, Bryan didn't fade into obscurity. Instead, he channeled the same passion he had brought to the football field into being a father, a role he cherished above all others.
How do you handle the balance between all of the rigors of being a professional athlete and being a parent of young kids? I couldn't do it for multiple reasons.
It's actually kind of funny because like some of the athletes, you know, they're single, don't have kids, they don't have a lot of the responsibilities of like, you know, bedtime, story time, putting kids down and stuff like that.
Brahman was a devoted father to his daughters, Blakely, 11, and Marlo, 8, whom he considered his greatest legacy. After retiring, he focused on fatherhood and community involvement, coaching youth sports and supporting charities in Texas. The man who had once lived on the streets, who had been dismissed and overlooked, who had clawed his way from the bottom to the top of the professional sports world, now found his greatest joy in the simple moments of fatherhood, reading bedtime stories, attending school events, teaching his daughters the values that had carried him through his own incredible journey. Brahman's net worth at the time of his death was estimated at $1.50, $3 million, built from career earnings of over $4.7 million and investments in community programs. But true wealth, as Bryan understood better than most, couldn't be measured in dollars and cents. It was measured in relationships, in impact, in the legacy you leave behind for those who matter most. His journey from homelessness to the Super Bowl was complete, but Bryan Braman's story was far from over. The lessons he had learned, the character he had built, the spirit he had forged, all of these would be tested one final time in the most important battle of his life. The battle that would define not just how he lived, but how he faced the ultimate challenge that every human being must eventually confront: legacy of a champion's heart. The news of Bryan's death spread quickly through social media, where former teammates, coaches, and fans struggled to find words adequate to capture what they had lost. Emmanuel Acho, a former Eagles teammate, shared an emotional tribute on X saying, "I didn't intend on crying this morning. Then I read the news on my teammate Bryan Braman. Love you, Brahman. You lived a hard life and you never complained about it. A champion in life and a warrior in death. It is forever indeed." The Philadelphia Eagles released an official statement mourning Brahman's loss. "We are deeply saddened to learn of the passing of Bryan Braman. During his 4 seasons in Philadelphia, Bryan was a loyal teammate, a supporter of the community, and a valuable member of our Super Bowl winning team. More importantly, he was a devoted father who passionately loved his family and everyone around him." The statement captured the essence of what made Bryan special. Yes, he was a valuable football player, but more importantly, he was a valuable human being. The Houston Texans also issued a statement. "We are deeply saddened to hear about the passing of Bryan Braman. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the Brahman family during this difficult time." These weren't just corporate statements. They reflected genuine grief from organizations that had witnessed firsthand the kind of person Bryan was, both in uniform and out of it. The tributes poured in from across the NFL landscape, each one painting a picture of a man whose impact transcended statistics and accolades. His agent, Sean Stellato, provided heartfelt commentary that echoed the sentiments of Braman's teammates. Stellato described Brahman as a warrior in every sense, on the field and in life, facing every battle with unshakable grit and heart. But perhaps the most telling tributes came from those who had lined up across from Bryan on the football field, or who had shared a locker room with him. These were people who understood the difference between someone who talks about toughness and someone who actually embodies it. Lane Johnson, a current Eagles player who was with Brahman during the 2014 to 2017 seasons, shared his admiration on social media, stating that he always admired his former teammate. Zach Ertz, a Washington Commanders tight end and former Eagles teammate, reposted an NFL tribute video on X with 2 broken heart emojis, reflecting the emotional toll of Braman's passing. Sometimes, the most powerful statements are the ones that require no words at all. But it wasn't just current and former players who felt the loss. Fans across social media platforms shared their own memories and tributes, many focusing on the plays that had made Bryan famous. His helmetless tackle against the Tennessee Titans in 2011, his block punt in the 2017 divisional round against the Atlanta Falcons. These weren't just football plays, they were manifestations of a philosophy, living examples of what it meant to give everything you have, regardless of the consequences. Fans on Reddit described Brahman as a special teams ace and a lunatic in the best sense, known for his fearless and aggressive play. His blocked punt in the 2017 divisional round against the Atlanta Falcons during the Eagles' Super Bowl run was frequently mentioned, with one fan writing, "Had a blocked punt in the divisional against Atlanta. Helped the Birds win their first Super Bowl, forever goated." The impact of Bryan's story extended far beyond the confines of professional football. His journey from homelessness to NFL champion embodied resilience, a theme echoed by teammates and fans alike. His ability to overcome homelessness and limited college exposure, playing at Long Beach City College and West Texas 8A NDM, adds depth to his story, making his loss resonate deeply within the NFL's underdog community. The financial support that flowed toward Bryan during his cancer battle told its own story about the kind of person he was. The GoFundMe campaign's success, surpassing its $25,000 goal to reach nearly $90,000, reflects Braman's influence and the NFL's tight-knit community. However, it also underscores the high cost of advanced cancer treatments, especially for rare conditions requiring experimental therapies like CAR-T. Bryan's legacy isn't just preserved in highlight reels or statistics sheets. It lives in the memory of every person who witnessed his approach to life, his refusal to be defined by circumstances, his determination to make every moment count. His story as an undrafted player who overcame homelessness, addiction, and long odds to win a Super Bowl resonates as a testament to his grit and spirit. His legacy lives on through his daughters and the inspiration he provided to underdogs everywhere.
I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, Blakely and Marlo, and I'm actually kind of worried about how crazy they're gonna be. They live fearless, and I love it.
Well, they get that from you.
Yeah, yeah. I love it to death. You know, just watching them grow. Obviously, seeing yourself in them. It's nuts. Fatherhood is probably the most challenging thing, but most satisfying thing I've done to date.
Blakely and Marlo Braman will grow up knowing that their father was more than just a football player. He was a man who showed the world what it meant to fight with courage, to love with abandon, and to never give up, no matter how impossible the odds might seem. The nurse who may have been present during Bryan's final moments would have witnessed something extraordinary. Not just the passing of a former NFL player, but the completion of a life that served as a masterclass in resilience, determination, and grace under pressure. Bryan's battle with cancer amplified his legacy, raising awareness about rare cancers and the financial challenges faced by former athletes. But perhaps the most fitting tribute to Bryan's life came from the way people responded to his death. Not with bitterness or anger at the unfairness of it all, but with gratitude for having been touched by his example. The outpouring of support through donations and tributes underscored Brahman's impact as a glue guy in the locker room and a warrior both on and off the field. Bryan's final days were marked by his characteristic resilience and love for his family. Despite the physical toll of his illness, he remained a symbol of perseverance, having overcome a challenging upbringing and an undrafted NFL journey to achieve a Super Bowl victory. The hospital staff who witnessed Bryan's final moments saw more than just the end of a life. They saw the completion of a masterpiece, a human being who had taken every setback, every challenge, every moment of adversity and transformed it into something beautiful. They saw a father who, even in his final days, was more concerned about his daughter's future than his own pain. They saw a man who faced the ultimate challenge with the same courage he had brought to every other battle in his life. If you enjoyed this video, check out other suggested cards on your screen for more similar content.